How does a bank prove the money it holds belongs to itself? I'm a lawyer with an extremely high win rate. If I underperform, I can get the opposing party locked up. If I perform normally, I can get both the opposing party and their lawyer locked up. If I overperform, I can even get the guy with the gavel locked up too. But one accident happened. I transmigrated to another parallel universe. In this world, I'm a noob marriage lawyer. I graduated 2.5 years ago, took on 5 lawsuits, and lost 4 of them. So after I transmigrated here, I haven't gotten a single case in half a month. Just when I was at a loss and ready to switch careers, an elderly couple walked into the law firm before I could stand up to ask for their needs. The old man spoke first to state his request. Lawyer, our son is suspected of robbing a bank. We want to hire you to defend him. We hope we can get his sentence reduced at best. I was extremely excited the second I heard that. Bank robbery already falls under criminal public prosecution. This kind of case is usually pretty hard to handle, but that's exactly what I need to make a name for this law firm. So I asked the old man again to describe the general process of the whole case. Here's how the case went. The old man had a sudden illness and was sent to hospital for emergency treatment. He told his son Wang Li to withdraw his savings from the bank to pay for the treatment. Since he was not the account holder himself, the bank required him to prove he was the old man's child. Even with the ID card, household register, and critical illness notice, they still refused. The bank staff spoke very aggressively, insisting the old man come in person to confirm it himself. Otherwise, they would not allow the withdrawal. But the old man was still in the ICU waiting for the money to save his life. How could he come? How could he prove it? While the two sides were arguing, several robbers showed up and robbed the bank straight away. One of the robbers learned that the old man's son needed money to save a life. He gave him a portion of the stolen money without hesitation. The old man's son didn't care about anything else at that moment, just took the money and went to the hospital. The whole group was caught afterwards. Since the old man's son took the money, he was identified as an accomplice, convicted of aggravated robbery, and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Later, the old man filed an appeal, but unfortunately, the second instance upheld the first trial's verdict. Now the case has entered the final trial stage. Once the final trial gives the verdict, no further appeals can be filed, and the case will be finalized. When talking about the second trial, the old man suddenly got furious. The lawyer for the second trial was from a top large law firm in the South, who claimed himself to be a top criminal case lawyer. He asked for 188,000 yuan in legal fees right off the bat, but only said 3 sentences in court. Okay, our side accepts the presiding judge's judgment. The old man was so angry that he kept trembling. Then Zhang Suifang, who was beside him, hurriedly patted Wang Zizhang on the back and said to me, Lawyer Su, this case has a very big influence. We heard that if the final trial proceeds, it may be conducted in the form of live broadcast. We don't trust big law firms. We went to many small law firms, but none of them would take this case. After listening to that, I was really overjoyed. Isn't this a perfect advertisement for the law firm? So I took the case without any hesitation and promised that if they are not satisfied with the result, they don't need to pay the legal fee. Soon we signed the entrustment contract. Right at that moment, a female college student walked in. Hi, Lawyer Su. I'm here to report for duty. After trying hard to recall, I finally found this girl's information in the memory of the original owner of this body. This girl's name is Li Shuizhen. She is a trainee lawyer the original owner hired earlier. Coming to report for duty today, Li Hezhen is a top senior student of the law department of Lanzhou University of Law. She sent her resume to small law firms just to get practice. Oh, you're here. Just come with me to the court. Very soon, we got the copied case files from the court. After Li Shuizhen read the case files, she got a little worried. Lawyer Su, the first and second trial verdicts are the same, which will have a great impact on the final trial verdict, unless there is some subversive new evidence. Otherwise, there is a high probability that the first trial verdict will still be upheld. And I heard the public prosecutor for this case is said to be very tough. Oh no, is the first case I got going to fail? Thinking of this, a wave of despair spread in Li Shuizhen's heart. After I finished reading the case files at this time, I already had a clear plan in my mind. The ruling result of this case in my mind is already almost certain. Li Shuizhen was still immersed in despair, and the emotion that we could not win the case, staring at me beside her, reminded in a low voice, Lawyer, are we going to lose this case? I shook my head slightly. Lose. Wang Zizhang's son didn't rob anyone at all. How could we possibly lose? He didn't commit robbery. Lawyer Su, what do you mean by that? You'll know when the trial starts. It's confidential for now. I curled the corner of my mouth slightly and stepped forward full of confidence. Come on, the word lose doesn't exist in my book. Though Li Shuizhen was very curious about what I said, she didn't press further and trotted to catch up with me. Though the nature of this case was almost determined, I still decided to meet Wang Zizhang's son first and the other suspects to hear their side of the story. The case of Wang Zizhang's son Wang Li has always been controversial. After losing the first and second trials, the court hasn't issued the official verdict yet. Wang Li is still being held in the detention center now. Soon Wang Li was summoned. I took Li Shuizhen to the summons room. Wang Li was in a very bad mental state. After going through the first and second trials, he had no hope of getting his sentence reduced. Wang Li glanced up at me. Hello, lawyer. Do I still have a chance? I raised the corners of my mouth. Of course you have a chance. I made a promise to your parents. Wang Li lifted his head abruptly. Really? You're not kidding me, right? I won't charge any legal fees if I lose the case, I said in a firm tone. Since I chose to take this case, I definitely have a certain level of confidence. As long as you cooperate well, getting a sentence reduction won't be a problem. How much your sentence gets reduced depends mostly on your attitude. I smiled slightly and was fully confident about this case. Cooperate with me. Seeing how confident I was, Wang Li nodded heavily. A glimmer of hope rekindled in his heart. I gestured for Li Shuizhen to take notes properly and started asking about details of the crime, as well as his answers during the first and second trials. Half an hour later, I walked out of the detention center satisfied. Everything I wanted to confirm was confirmed. It's time to prepare for the trial. Back at the law firm, I sorted out the trial materials briefly and handed the organized materials to Li Shuizhen. Li Shuizhen opened them and took a look, then rubbed her eyes in disbelief. Lawyer Su, will this be too aggressive if we submit it like this? This case deserves aggressive moves. We can't win without being aggressive. I waved my hand. Go handle it. Li Shuizhen walked out looking totally dumbfounded. and left the office. Not long after, the application for the final trial of Wang Li's case was approved. At the same time, the court summons also arrived at the bank legal department after the bank received the court notice. They were quite surprised, suing the bank for improper operations that led to their client Wang Li being sentenced and claiming 200,000 yuan for lost wages and mental distress. What does this mean? Our bank is the victim in Wang Li's case. We didn't even ask the court to punish him severely. And now, we actually received a court summons from him suing us. Is this some kind of joke? The robber is playing the victim now. The person in charge of Nandu Bank was extremely furious about this. He immediately contacted the legal department and told them to handle this matter seriously. Meanwhile, given the special nature of Wang Li's case, robbed money to save his father and got 20 years in prison. This topic can easily go viral online. Public opinion online is all blaming the bank. How come banks are the disadvantaged group now? They make you go through so much trouble when you withdraw money, but they're super active when they want you to get a credit card. Support Wang Li. If the bank wasn't such a hassle, Wang Li would have withdrawn the money and paid the bill long ago. He wouldn't have needed to rob the bank at all. Exactly. When you deposit money, the bank staff are super polite. When you withdraw money, you're treated like dirt. You guys don't understand the bank's difficulties at all. The bank actually has its own reasons. Otherwise, look, why is it that every time there's a case of missing money from large withdrawals at the bank, it's always blamed on temporary workers? You can't blame the bank for this either. Blame the temporary workers. 50 cents per post. Hey guy above, please, add me to the group. I want to make this money too. The head of Nandu Bank saw the online public opinion. He's so furious he can barely see straight. He issued a strict non-negotiable order. They must win this live-streamed court trial. And they also have to win the court of public opinion. If they fail to pull this off, everyone in the legal department will be fired and replaced. Inside Baijun Law Firm. I'm happily scrolling through short videos, watching online public opinion lean entirely one way. As of right now, this lawsuit against Nandu Bank, plus Wang Li's final appeal case, has attracted massive public attention. If we win, our firm will become famous. If we lose, our firm will still become famous. Li Shuizhen looks at the online public opinion, feeling both worried and hopeful. On one hand, the case has gained so much traction. We'll definitely blow up if we win. On the other hand, she's scared we'll lose. Lawyer Sue, this case has gotten so big. What if we end up losing? There's no what if. The materials I asked you to organize, cases related to Nandu Bank in recent years, and contact information of the victims. Did you finish sorting them out? Hand them over to me. Li Shuizhen hands the documents to me. I flip directly to the section of bank lawsuits, the page with victims' contact information. I dialed the first number on the list and start the call. Hello, I'm a lawyer from Baijun Law Firm. I heard you sued Nandu Bank 2.5 years ago, but lost the case. Would you be interested in seeing how Nandu Bank loses a case? After hanging up the phone, I call the second contact on the list, using the exact same line. Li Shuizhen looks at me. A flicker of surprise crosses her eyes. Who knew you could find witnesses this way? Li Shuizhen doesn't quite understand what I'm doing. It's totally different from what they taught in law school. How do I put this? It just feels really unprofessional, but it works really well at the same time. From me, she can't see much of the fancy top lawyer vibe, but she's learned a lot of things. How to handle social situations is one. The way to find witnesses today is another. That makes 2 useful skills total. Both are really handy. 2.5 hours later, I put down the phone in my hand and let out a long breath. All the preparation work is finally done. It's completely foolproof. Now we just wait for the trial to start. The next day, during the court's pre-trial mediation, as expected, Nandu Bank's side refused to accept mediation at all and boasted that they will definitely win the lawsuit. I don't care about their empty boasts at all. Anyone can talk big outside the courtroom. Let's face off in the trial court. Then you'll learn how the real world works. Just sit back and watch me beat you. Soon enough, it was time for the trial to begin. Since this case has caused such a huge stir online, there's lots of newsworthy content to dig up. Before entering the courtroom, many reporters were waiting at the court entrance. As soon as Nandu Bank's lawyers arrived, they were immediately swarmed by reporters. The lead lawyer representing them is a young lawyer in his 20s from the legal department, named Limo. He coughed twice to clear his throat, with a confident look on his face, compared to Limo being swarmed by reporters. My side is way quieter. Almost no reporters are paying attention to us. I smiled and turned around, and took Li Shuizhen into the courtroom with me. During the waiting period before the trial, Li Shuizhen was a little nervous. Lawyer Sue, this trial is a live-streamed one. What if something goes wrong? There's no such thing as what if, unless the chief judge intentionally gives a wrong verdict. If that happens, this case will become even more sensational. The corner of my mouth curled up, signaling Li Shuizhen not to worry about these things. In this parallel world, people take the law very seriously. The law is truly sacred here. Everyone is equal before the law. There's no such thing as judicial favoritism. If you have objections, you can file a reconsideration application, and you'll see if the judicial staff end up in jail. Judges usually strictly enforce the provisions of the law. As for the chief judge and judicial officers of this trial, I've already looked into their backgrounds. The chief judge is a female judge, Yu Kaixia, vice president of Nandu Court. She has extremely in-depth research on the law. She's worked at the court for many years, and has presided over hundreds of trials. All her verdicts are well-founded and reasonable. This Nandu Bank robbery case is presided over by Yu Kaixia. As for being treated unfairly, I'm not worried about that at all, because Yu Kaixia is famous for her impartial rulings. After the lawyers from both sides take their seats in the courtroom, the court clerk starts reading out the court rules to maintain court discipline and uphold the solemnity of the court. The following court rules are now announced. First, the parties, their litigation representatives, and observers must follow the instructions of the presiding judge. Second, when judicial officers enter the courtroom, and when the presiding judge or sole judge pronounces the court judgment, all personnel present shall stand up. That is the end of the announcement. Please welcome the presiding judge and judges to the court. All rise. Yu Kaixia and 2 judges walk into the courtroom and raps the gavel. The court is now in session. Then they verify the basic information of all relevant personnel. At the same time, the trial is being live-streamed outside the courtroom. Lots of people are following the live broadcast of this trial. Inside the legal department of Nandu Bank, Wang Wu, the person in charge of Nandu Bank, and Xu Zhiqiang, head of the legal department, are watching the live stream. After seeing the trial start, he looks up and asks Xu Zhiqiang, "The trial has already started. It has just begun for a short while, and there are already hundreds of viewers in the live stream room. Our bank's legal department can't lose this case. Got it?" Xu Zhiqiang nods with a smile. "Don't worry, President Wang. Our legal department is very well prepared this time. As per your requirements, our legal department not only can't lose, we have to win this case beautifully. At the very least, we need to suppress the negative public opinion." Wang Wu nods in satisfaction. This is a publicly live-streamed trial, and many media outlets are covering it online. Nandu Bank is under enormous pressure. If we lose this trial, it will cause huge damage to Nandu Bank's reputation and lead to very serious consequences. As the head of Nandu Bank, Wang Wu will also be severely affected, so we cannot afford to lose. After the information verification in court is completed, Yukaisha raps the gavel. Now the plaintiff may state the facts and reasons, as well as your appeal claims. I sit at the counsel table, knowing that the critical moment has come. I straighten my suit a little and start stating the complaint orally. Our claims are very simple. First, we do not accept the verdicts of the first and second trials. Our client is clearly innocent, but was falsely accused of robbery. We appeal to revoke the verdicts of the first and second trials. We apply to cancel the original judgment and clear our client's name of all charges. Second, we apply for the defendant, which is Nandu Bank, to compensate our client due to the wrong judgment of Nandu Bank. Our client was wrongfully sentenced to 20 years in prison and detained in the detention center for a long time. We apply for compensation of 200,000 yuan for our client's lost wages, mental distress, and reputational damage. This amount is calculated in detail. It is not excessive. Third, since Nandu Bank has caused serious damage to our client's reputation, we demand that Nandu Bank issue a public apology to our client, including but not limited to posting apology notices on short video and other major platforms for no less than 20 days. Fourth, we demand that the senior management of Nandu Bank come forward to clarify the facts. This will not only clear our client's name, but also apologize to those victims who have suffered the same unfair treatment at Nandu Bank for the injustice they faced. The courtroom falls completely silent. Everyone present looks totally confused. Is this lawsuit request for real? They not only demand to revoke the first and second trial verdicts, but also claim that the client is innocent and wants to clear his name. Fine, that's sort of acceptable. But they even demand compensation from Nandu Bank. The lawyer of an alleged robber is actually asking the bank to pay 200,000 yuan for lost wages, mental distress, and reputational damage. Is this another robbery attempt? And it's even clearly priced. On the live stream of the trial outside the courtroom, the viewers watching the broadcast, including some court staff, lawyers, and other legal practitioners, are all stunned. They originally thought this lawsuit against Nandu Bank would definitely lose, but since this live stream trial has such a big influence, and the judge is a very experienced one, maybe they could get a commutation of sentence. That would be a good result overall, and could barely count as a win. But to put forward such lawsuit claims, is this some kind of crazy wish-making? No one would even dare to wish for this much. Damn, bros, flood the comments with 666 for this lawyer, no matter if they win or lose. This lawsuit request is absolutely unprecedented. It might even be recorded as a classic case in legal litigation. Who would even dare to wish for such wild lawsuit claims? Even Buddha can't pull that off, right? Inside the legal department of Nandu Bank, Wang Wu frowned slightly. Next to him, Xu Zhiqiang spoke with a smile. "Manager Wang, this kind of litigation claim is just a grandstanding stunt. Just glance it over, nothing serious. He can't produce any factual evidence or legal defense. He might even end up in jail for perjury. And then our Nandu Bank will win the public opinion battle straight up." Wang Wu stared straight at the trial live stream, snorted coldly. "But remember, no matter what, this trial, our Nandu Bank must win this beautifully." Got it, Xu Zhiqiang said with an obsequious smile. Right at this moment, opposing counsel Limo couldn't help but sneer. "These litigation claims, let me ask counsel for the party. Can you produce relevant factual evidence and legal defense to support them? If you can't, you might get sentenced for obstruction of justice." I smiled faintly. "Well, that doesn't seem to have anything to do with defense counsel, does it? Your Honor, opposing counsel is verbally attacking me, trying to disrupt the normal judicial process. I request that opposing counsel be removed from the stand." Limo was just about to say something. On the trial bench, Yukaisha frowned slightly and rapped the gavel. Application denied. Rejecting the plaintiff counsel's application, it is not yet time for defense counsel to speak. Defense counsel is given one warning. Faced with the rapped gavel and the warning, Limo could only hold back his pent-up anger and swallowed what he was about to say. "I can't take this anymore." Limo squinted his eyes, glared at me fiercely, cursing in his mind how much of a jerk this guy is. Which law school did he even graduate from? Not only are his litigation claims total nonsense, now I get a removal request just for saying one sentence. Removal from the stand means that you affected the court or the opposing party and need to leave the court temporarily. Obviously, what I just said didn't disrupt you at all. But you're just being this petty. You even requested I be removed. Lima took a long, deep breath, consoling himself. This counsel's litigation claims are totally baseless. They've already disrupted the normal judicial process. If he can't produce evidence, he'll be facing detention, even criminal detention. Not only will I win this lawsuit, I'll also win Nandu Bank's public opinion war directly. And the fundamental battle too. There's no point getting mad. Limo gradually calmed down. On the trial bench, Yukaisha frowned slightly, spoke to warn the plaintiff's counsel. "As the presiding judge of this trial, I am obligated to further confirm regarding the litigation claims you submitted. If there is no factual basis or legal basis to defend them, per the criminal law provisions, committing perjury in court will be prosecuted by the prosecution for false litigation and held criminally liable according to law. Are you sure there are no issues with your litigation claims?" Next to him, Li Xuezhen was so nervous that faint beads of sweat appeared on her face, tried to tug at the corner of my clothes to tell me to calm down, but I nodded very seriously. "Your Honor, I know the consequences of lying in court. I take responsibility for all my statements in court." Whoosh! The court immediately burst into commotion. Thump, thump, Yu Kaisha rapped the gavel. Order in court, then she continued. All right, since you've confirmed your litigation claims. Now next, the defendant Nandu Bank, please. Present your defense and litigation claims. The chance to refute is here. Limo straightened up slightly. Read out his defense and litigation claims. Our defense opinions are as follows. First, regarding the plaintiff, that is the claimant party Wang Li's side. All accusation claims against our Nandu Bank are rejected, and we request that this malicious behavior be handled seriously. Punish him severely and strictly. To uphold the sanctity of the law. Second, we request to uphold the Nandu primary courts and Nandu intermediate courts first instance and second instance rulings. Third, we request the plaintiff to compensate for all losses caused to our side. The amount is 500,000 yuan. Fourth, we request the plaintiff to bear all our attorney fees. Your Honor, my defense and claim statement are completed. Limo finished stating his defense arguments and litigation claims. Yu Kaisha rapped the gavel. Both parties have finished presenting their litigation claims. Next, the plaintiff side, please. Present relevant legal and factual evidence. As soon as Yu Kaisha finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to me. After all, the plaintiff's litigation claim is way too absurd. My assistant Li Suizhen was so nervous that her palms sweated. Lawyer Su, what do we do now? Do we even have evidence? Wait, do we actually have evidence? Li Suizhen kept flipping through the litigation documents in her hand. The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. What kind of nonsense is that? You're a trainee lawyer at the firm, and you're still worried about this at this point. I grabbed the documents from Li Weizhen's hand and spoke unhurriedly. Your Honor, before submitting the relevant legal basis, I would like to ask my client to recount what happened during the incident. Approved. Now, the party concerned will recount the details of the incident that took place at that time. At the party's seat, Wang Li slowly stood up from her seat. She looked at the two bailiffs next to her, looking a little nervous. When her eyes met mine, she calmed down a little. Your Honor, I'd like to have a sip of water. Granted. As soon as Yu Kaisha finished, a bailiff handed Wang Li a bottle of water. After drinking, Wang Li's nervousness completely faded away. She said, the incident was very simple. My dad was in the ICU and urgently needed money. I went to Nandu Bank to withdraw money. The bank staff said I wasn't the account holder and refused me, telling me to either bring my dad to the bank in person or show proof that I'm my dad's son. Even the household register wasn't accepted. I remember, when I was arguing with the bank staff, a group of robbers burst into the bank. They robbed the bank. One of the robbers noticed me sitting on the ground crying my eyes out and gave me some of the money he'd robbed. Then I took the money to the hospital to pay the bill. I raised my hand and said, Your Honor, I request permission to ask my client some detailed questions. The gavel rapped. Granted, the party's lawyer may ask the client relevant detailed questions about the case, but questions unrelated to the case are not allowed, nor is leading the client's subjective intention. Okay, Your Honor, after getting Yu Kaisha's approval, I asked the client, did you participate in the robbery at that time? No. Can you describe in detail the process of the robber giving you the money? Wang Li frowned slightly as she recalled. I remember a short robber saw me on the ground, crying my heart out with my head in my hands. He called me a coward and asked why I was so scared. I told him my dad was hospitalized and I couldn't withdraw the money. I was worried about my dad. That's why I was crying. That robber robbed the bank, apparently also to get money to save his family. After hearing what happened to me, he took out 2 bundles of money and stuffed them into my arms. I continued asking, then what? After the robber stuffed the money into your arms, what did you do immediately? Wang Li answered quickly. I remember it very clearly. At first, I didn't dare to take it. I was so scared, then the robber scolded me and said I was an unfilial son. So I took the money. Okay, thank you for your cooperation. Your Honor, we have finished our questioning. Yu Kaisha looked at the plaintiff's seat. Plaintiff's lawyer, you have finished questioning. Now proceed with your legal argument. Okay, Your Honor. I slowly pulled out from the documents the key trial questions, raised by the public prosecution in the first instance. Your Honor, these are the prosecution questions, raised by the Nandu Primary Court in the first instance, as well as the conviction and judgment. I believe there are many problems with this judgment, many unreasonable points, which have caused serious harm to our client. Inside the courtroom, everyone's eyes were fixed on me. The first instance judgment is unreasonable. Does that mean he wants to overturn the first instance judgment? The jury and the audience in the courtroom all fixed their eyes on me. Even the audience watching the live stream outside the courtroom suddenly perked up. So he's not satisfied with the first instance judgment. He wants to overturn the first instance trial. I'm not even going to say 666 right now. First, I gotta say this is so awesome. No matter what the final judgment is, I think it's already super interesting just that they're trying to overturn the first instance verdict. For the unreasonable parts of the first instance judgment, it's totally fine to raise questions. But if you want to get it overturned, you need to present new evidence to support your argument. This young lawyer seems really confident. I'm just going to support him, no questions asked. Yu Kaisha frowned slightly in the courtroom regarding the first instance verdict of Nandu Primary Court. Counsel for the party, if you find any unreasonable points, you may cite legal provisions to interpret and refute them. Yes, Your Honor. I nodded. This is the document from Nandu Primary Court on the conviction of our client. The first point of the verdict is as follows. Nandu Primary Court accused our client of knowing full well that the money was robbed from the bank by the suspect, yet she still chose to take it. Therefore, the court ruled that our client's subjective intent was to rob money from the bank and found our client an accomplice guilty of taking advantage of the bank robbery to commit the same offense. The second point of the verdict, Nandu Primary Court found that our client, who is Wang Li, communicated with the suspect as further proof that she was an accomplice. We do not accept these 2 points of the verdict. Our reasons are as follows. Our client already clarified earlier that at that time, the suspect took the initiative to talk to our client. The following part of the story is a bit complicated. We will refer to our client by her full name, Wang Li. Wodek made it very clear that the suspect took the initiative to ask her why she was crying in the bank. After hearing about her situation, he offered to give her money to pay the hospital bills for her dying father who was admitted to hospital. Also, Wang Li's first reaction was worry and fear, as she stated. Let me ask you this. Your Honor, Wang Li's first reaction was fear. How is it possible that From the perspective of subjective intent, Wang Li wanted to rob money from the bank. Immediate fear was Wang Li's actual subjective intent. Also, one more point. Wang Li stated that the suspect yelled at her under those circumstances. The suspect yelling at Wang Li was obviously because he was unhappy with her reaction. More importantly, the suspect was carrying a dangerous weapon. One wrong move, and Wang Li could have faced serious danger. Under such circumstances, Wang Li's life was completely unprotected. According to our country's legal provisions, Wang Li meets the requirements for necessity defense, so she does not bear any criminal liability. Based on the above arguments, we do not recognize the second point of Nandu Primary Court's verdict. The second instance verdict was identical to the first one. Therefore, we apply on these grounds to rescind the verdicts of Nandu Primary Court and Nandu Intermediate Court regarding our client Wang Li's first instance and second instance rulings. A burst of murmuring broke out in the courtroom. Everyone was stunned by the sharp argument I put forward. At first, then after some people thought it through carefully, they looked at me with admiration in their eyes. Wang Li's eyes also lit up. She's innocent, she's saved. She won't have to go to jail. Nandu Bank is gonna lose. That's awesome. Li Shuaizhen also let out a long sigh of relief. She looked at me with a hint of shock. There's actually a chance to win this kind of lawsuit. So impressive, I really have good taste in picking law firms. Amazing. At the same time, in Nandu Bank's legal department, Wang Wu's face was terrifyingly gloomy as he stared coldly at Xu Zhiqiang, the head of the legal department. Minister Xu, didn't you personally guarantee to me that we would win this case? So what the hell is happening right now? Not only did we fail to get a heavier sentence, they even filed an application for acquittal. If they actually win the case, do you have any idea what kind of consequences and losses it will cause for our bank? Your entire legal department will be fired. President Wang, don't be anxious yet. This case isn't over yet. That lawyer on the other side is pretty skilled. I'll give him that. But our bank's legal team doesn't take the bank's money for nothing. We earn our keep. The 2 points raised by the other lawyer do make sense, I'll admit. But there are multiple points in the first instance verdict. The remaining points are the most critical ones. Xu Zhiqiang took out the first instance verdict file. After Wang Wu glanced at it, he snorted. There better not be any more surprises. Keep an eye on this live stream at all times. Come report to me immediately if anything happens. It's so annoying to watch. Remember, we cannot lose this case. After Wang Wu left the office, Xu Zhiqiang let out a long breath and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Wang Wu was just here a second ago. That put a lot of pressure on him. As for this lawsuit, as the head of the legal department, he knows it better than anyone. It's a guaranteed win. But when he saw the opposing lawyer, for some reason Xu Zhiqiang had a random thought pop into his head. What if the other side wins? As soon as he snapped back to his senses, he immediately slapped himself across the face. No way, they're just some unknown tiny law firm. How could some random small-time lawyer win? In the courtroom, I looked at Yu Kaixia. Your Honor, the plaintiff has completed their statement. Yu Kaixia nodded slightly and turned to look at Li Mo and his group. Does Nandu Bank and the public prosecutor have anything to add? Li Mo glared at me through gritted teeth, silently cursing that Subai is such a good bullshitter. He only brought up the first 2 points of the ruling, and the rest of the points were completely left unmentioned. Li Mo raised his hand. Your Honor, I have a question. Li Mo raised his hand to request permission from the judge. Yu Kaixia looked towards the defense side. Defense counsel, you may raise any questions in court. Li Mei took a deep breath and pulled out the first instance ruling. Your Honor, I move to dismiss the plaintiff counsel's statement. The grounds for my application are as follows. Just now, the plaintiff counsel refused to accept the ruling of Nandu Primary Court from the first trial and presented corresponding reasons for that. But you, plaintiff counsel, are deliberately avoiding key points. You only talked about the first 2 points of the ruling and intentionally ignored the rest of the points. The third point of the ruling, as determined by Nandu Primary Court, is that Wang Li clearly knew the funds were the bank's property, yet still chose to use these funds to pay hospital fees. In Wang Li's earlier statement just now, she made it very clear that after Wang Li left the bank, she was already out of danger, yet she still chose to take the money to pay the hospital. Based on this point, we can confirm this was Wang Li's own subjective decision, not what the plaintiff counsel described, that Wang Li acted under a state of necessity. I would like to ask plaintiff counsel, when your client clearly knew that the money was the bank's property, why did she choose to go to the hospital instead of calling the police to turn over the bank's money, or waiting until she fully arrived at a safe location before returning the money? But Wang Li specifically chose to use the money to pay hospital fees. This proves that, first, she knew this was money robbed from the bank. Second, even if the kidnappers threatened her, at the moment she left the bank, Wang Li was already out of danger. So the conditions for necessity are not met. Combining these 2 points, isn't this subjectively equivalent to robbing the bank to save her own father? Of course I know this is human nature. I don't deny that emotionally Wang Li has deep care and love for her father, but from a factual and legal perspective, the ruling against Wang Li has no issues at all. Your Honor, I have finished my statement. After finishing speaking, Li Mo glanced in my direction. The last paragraph was added by him on the spot. He also knew this case has a very significant public opinion impact. So while he needs to win the case, he also has to pay attention to public opinion. Otherwise, even if they win the case after it ends, Nandu Bank's reputation will also suffer huge losses. Does the plaintiff side have any opinions on the defense's counter-argument, or any different views to present? Li Mo gave me a provocative look. I slightly raised the corner of my mouth. He had been waiting for this exact moment. The time to take down Nandu Bank has finally arrived. Your Honor, I have no objections to what the defense presented. The defense counsel is correct based on his own views. But there is one point the defense counsel missed. I would like to ask defense counsel, how did you confirm that the money Wang Li held belonged to the bank? Is there any evidence proving the money is the bank's property? The defense counsel also stated that my client Wang Li took the bank's money to pay relevant hospital fees and ruled my client Wang Li's subjective intent based on this. But how do you prove this money belongs to the bank? My counter question completely stumped Li Mo. What does that mean? What do you mean prove the bank's money belongs to the bank? That's such a ridiculous fucking question, right? It wasn't just Li Mo who was stunned. Many audience members at the trial scene also didn't understand it. You can even do that Holy shit, that's awesome. He can even come up with such a tricky question. The audience watching the live broadcast of the trial were also stunned for a few seconds. Haha, what does that mean? Make the bank prove the bank's money belongs to the bank. This lawyer is really something. This lawsuit has gone in a direction I never expected. I think my brain's totally fried right now. Isn't this case about Wang Li? Shouldn't the focus be on getting her sentence reduced? The bank side is supposed to be the prosecuting party, right? How come Wang Li's lawyer now is being so aggressive? No clue. But this trial is getting super interesting. It's even kind of satisfying to watch. In the courtroom, my tricky question left Limo completely speechless. For a second, he had no idea what I was up to, in terms of the question itself. There's absolutely nothing wrong with what I asked. But if we look at the facts, the money the robbers stole from the bank isn't the bank's. Did it fall out of the sky or something? Li Xuezhen looked over at me, looking thoughtful, like she just figured something out. Yu Kaixia banged the gavel and looked at me calmly. Does the plaintiff's counsel's claim have any evidence or legal basis to support it? Yes, it does, Your Honor. I pulled out a document from the first trial file. Your Honor, this is evidence submitted by the prosecution during the first trial. According to the evidence presented in the public prosecution, the bank was in total chaos at the time. The robbers didn't just steal money from the bank itself. On top of that, they also robbed customers who were at the bank withdrawing money. As well, they stuffed all the money together in burlap sacks. Security footage shows that the robber who gave Wang Li the money grabbed 2 bundles of cash randomly from one of the burlap sacks. These 2 bundles of cash, there's no way to tell if they were stolen from the bank or from customers who had already withdrawn their money and were about to leave the bank. How can the bank prove this money belongs to them? If they can't prove that, then the bank cannot claim that my client participated in robbing the bank. The money was indeed stolen, but my client did not participate in the robbery. The robbers handed the money to my client. My client is at most guilty of unjust enrichment, so we asked that Nandu Bank provide proof that this money belongs to the bank. Everyone at the scene was totally confused. They couldn't believe this argument was even allowed. Yu Kaixia frowned slightly. As the presiding judge, in all her years on the bench, she's presided over hundreds of cases. This Wang Li robbery case has massive public influence. The court president appointed her as the presiding judge for it, but she's never seen a case like this before, with such a twisty process, and such outrageous arguments being made. Yet everything is still within court procedure rules. Yu Kaixia didn't show any obvious bias, and turned to look at the bank's legal team. Does the bank's side have any evidence to refute the plaintiff's counsel's question, or any legal provisions to object to it? Limo was absolutely furious at this point. Since when? Does a bank have to prove the bank's money belongs to the bank? Limo really wanted to yell out loud, but he'd already gotten a warning earlier. Another warning would get him a 50-win fine, and he could be removed from the court if it got worse. He had no choice. So he forced himself to calm down, raised his hand and spoke. Your Honor, I object. The opposing counsels argue. When a customer is inside the bank has a duty to protect the customer's safety and privacy. If the customer hasn't left the bank yet, the money is of course the bank's responsibility. Because the loss of the robbed customer's money, the bank is liable for most or all of that loss, based on liability rules. If the customer hasn't left the bank lobby area, then the money counts as the bank's property. There's no need to distinguish between robbing the bank or the customer. Anything the robber stole, whether it belonged to the bank or the customers, counts as the bank's property while inside the bank lobby. Limo stared sharply at the plaintiff's counsel's table. He was totally resentful towards me. I smiled nonchalantly, raised my hand to request to speak. Your Honor, regarding Nandu Bank's argument, that if a customer robbed in the bank lobby hasn't left, the bank is liable for the property loss. So the customer's money also counts as the bank's property. I raise an objection to this. Your Honor, this is a court case from half a year ago. The details of the case are, a bank customer was withdrawing money at the bank. Right after he got the cash, a robber who had been waiting for an opportunity targeted and robbed him, taking 150,000 yuan from the customer. The robber was caught later, but he had already spent all the money. He couldn't pay any of it back. So the customer asked the bank for compensation and sued Nandu Bank in court. But the bank used the no liability after leaving the counter rule on the grounds that the party failed to properly protect their own property and submitted supporting arguments, which eventually led to the withdrawal customer losing the case. Is this what you call Nandu Bank protecting customers' property safety inside the bank lobby? This is what Nandu Bank stated, right? If customers don't leave the bank, their money is protected by the bank, and any losses are borne by the bank. We deny this claim entirely, Your Honor. We request the presence of the involved withdrawal customer, the witness, to enter the court. Yu Kaixia nodded slightly. Her hair fell down a little. The plaintiff's lawyer requests the witness to enter the court. Approved. After the voice fell, bailiffs escorted a middle-aged woman around 40 to 50 years old into the courtroom. As soon as the woman walked into the courtroom, she stared straight at Limo. For no apparent reason, Limo suddenly had a bad premonition. On the trial stand, Yu Kaixia read out the witness's relevant information. The witness appearing in court is Wang Min, age 46. Is your identity correct? Wang Min nodded hard. Your Honor, I'm Wang Min. My identity is correct. Yu Kaixia continued speaking. The witness's identity is confirmed. Please describe the relevant situation. After Wang Min heard this, she seemed to find an outlet for her frustration. Half a year ago, I deposited a sum of money in Nandu Bank. It might not seem like much to Nandu Bank, 150,000 yuan, but that's money my husband and I worked hard for years to earn, as betrothal gift money for my son, right after I withdrew the money. A robber snatched the money my husband and I worked for years to save. When we tracked it down later, the money was already gone. We followed our lawyer's advice and sued the bank. But the bank used the no liability after leaving the counter rule, and my improper money keeping as excuse to reject our claim, and I ended up losing the case. Today I just want to ask Nandu Bank, what do you mean by this? Is this double standards? When I sued you, you said no liability after leaving the counter. Now that you're the one being sued, you say if someone is robbed inside the bank lobby, any loss of customers' money should be borne mainly or entirely by the bank, according to the division of responsibility. If the customer hasn't left the bank lobby area, then the money naturally belongs to the bank. So shouldn't you pay back my hard-earned money? Tell me, isn't that right? Pay back the money, Nandu Bank. At first, Wang Min could speak calmly, but she got more and more agitated as she spoke. In the end, she just started swearing loudly. The things she said were really nasty. The bailiffs next to her couldn't calm her down even if they tried. People in the courtroom and the live stream started discussing. Looking at it this way, Nandu Bank is indeed using double standards. On one hand, they say they're the victim. On the other hand, they're the one harming others. You're really unlucky if you run into issues with Nandu Bank. I don't think other banks are this ridiculous, right? Hey everyone, you can leave comments below to let others know which banks to avoid. In the trial live stream and all rebroadcast platforms, many viewers were complaining nonstop. In the courtroom, Yu Taixia saw that the witness was losing control of her emotions and rapped the gavel. Witness for the plaintiff, please control your emotions. Insulting the defendant in court is not allowed. This is your first warning. After hearing the presiding judge's voice, Wang Min's emotions calmed down instantly. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I failed to control my emotions in court. I'm sorry. Yu Kaixia showed no expression at all. Wang Min, witness for the plaintiff. Have you finished your statement? To answer, Your Honor. I finished speaking. Bailiffs, escort the plaintiff's witness out of the court. After Wang Min left the courtroom, Yu Kaixia looked at Limo regarding the claim raised by the plaintiff's witness that Nandu Bank failed to protect customers' property safety inside the lobby. Does the defendant Nandu Bank have any supplementary explanation on the situation at that time? Limo clenched his fist tightly. He forced himself to calm down. This lawsuit was really too tormenting for him. He even had a feeling that he wouldn't win the case. After taking a long, deep breath, he calmed down. Your Honor, just now the plaintiff's witness insulted Nandu Bank in court, so I doubt the witness's mental state. Therefore, I believe the statements made by the plaintiff's witness in court are not sufficient to be used as evidence in court. When Limo finished speaking, he noticed me sitting across from him. A faint smile curled at the corner of his mouth. I suddenly had a bad gut feeling. Just as Yu Kaixia was deliberating whether to approve Limo's application, I raised my hand. Yu Kaixia caught this movement right away. She asked, does the plaintiff's counsel have something to say, or anything to add? I smiled slightly, and held up the documents in my hand. If you take a close look, there were about a dozen sheets. Limo stared at me in confusion. I smiled back at Limo. Then I spoke, Your Honor. Our side agrees with the defense counsel's application, but we also have several witnesses who can testify against Nandu Bank for failing to protect customers' property safety inside the bank. Limo's brows were almost knitted tightly together. Are you ever gonna stop? He was totally tilted, really totally tilted. Limo had no idea how to describe his current mood. He had just stated clearly that the opposing witness might have mental issues. Turns out I didn't even argue that point with him. I just pulled a whole stack of witness materials out of nowhere. Why are you such a sneaky guy? That's way too ridiculous, isn't it? Limo has handled so many lawsuits. He has never seen anyone pull this before. This was literally a total meltdown moment. I had a smile on the corner of my mouth and stared silently at the frustrated Limo. I thought to myself, aren't you pretty cocky, kid? Thought you could keep arguing with me, huh? I just straight up won't argue that point with you. You say this witness might have mental issues. What about all the other ones? You can't write all of them off, right? Come on, keep going. Didn't you look down on my Baijun law firm that specializes in marriage consulting? What's wrong with marriage consulting? I can still run circles around you in criminal litigation so bad you won't know which way is up. I smiled slightly and continued speaking. Your Honor, the evidence and materials our side holds are more than enough to prove that the bank failed to fulfill its duty of protecting customer property. So we apply that the defense argument put forward by Nandu Bank's legal counsel just now be revoked. Yu Kaixia rapped the gavel. Rejection of plaintiff's application grounds. Basis for rejection. Legally, banks have the obligation to preserve customers' property. The evidence submitted by the plaintiff is not universal. Approval of application request. Basis for approval. The defendant, Nandu Bank, failed to fulfill its obligation to ensure bank customers' safety. The moment the gavel struck, Yu Kaixia's trial reasoning was also stated very clearly, but some people who didn't understand, watching the live trial stream, didn't get what this meant, and couldn't help asking about it. Teacher Luo, what's with both rejecting and approving at the same time? Right. I'm so confused watching this. Explain it to us, Teacher Luo. Luo Deqiang smiled slightly in the court and explained Yu Kaixia's ruling. The reason for rejecting the plaintiff's application grounds is the plaintiff's application grounds and evidence indicate that banks do not bear responsibility for protecting customers' property safety. But per legal provisions, banks on their own premises must guarantee the safety of customers' property. Nandu Bank won the lawsuit against its aggrieved customer. That win does not represent a universal rule. If the court ruled to approve, that would confirm that banks have no responsibility to protect customers' property safety. But if it ruled to reject, in this specific argument, Nandu Bank did fail to fulfill its obligations. So what's the solution? Judge Yu Kaiixia handled this really cleverly. She rejected the grounds put forward by the plaintiff to uphold the dignity of the law and approve the application to show that Nandu Bank did perform inadequately. For this lawsuit, Nandu Bank took the wrong argument direction from the very start. They completely fell into the opposing side's argument trap. Luo Daqiang shook his head slightly. For this case, Nandu Bank is probably going to lose. Nandu Bank is going to lose. Teacher Luo said Nandu Bank is going to lose. Then Nandu Bank is probably doomed. Totally. Come on, who do you think Teacher Luo is? Luo Daqiang looked at the comments section and smiled slightly. All right, this lawsuit is almost coming to an end. Let's watch the final closing statements and verdict. In the courtroom, regarding Yu Kaixia's ruling, Limo raised his hand to raise an objection. Your Honor, you haven't let me continue to speak and present my arguments yet. I request that the just concluded trial be ruled invalid. Application denied. Limo's face darkened immediately. What the hell does application denied mean? Your Honor, may I ask why the application is denied? The verdict has already been reached. The defense has already been notified of the denied application. If the defense insists on pushing this application, you may file an administrative review after the court adjourns. But for now, the application remains denied. Defense counsel, if you keep dwelling on this topic, you will receive a second warning. Limo looked towards the judge's bench. He felt like he had a punch he couldn't land. He was so frustrated he could almost explode. He slowly spat out a few words. Yes, Your Honor. Yukaisha glanced coldly at the defense, specifically in Limo's direction. Then she looked over once more. I banged the gavel. Now, the plaintiff and defense will make their final court statements. Plaintiff's counsel, please deliver your final statement. Yes, Your Honor. For court statements. The most important thing is whether you can sway the judge. I had prepared for this long ago. I won't use any sappy emotional lines. As long as this case is ruled according to law, there's no way we will lose. Wang Li will be resentenced properly. From what I knew about Yukaisha before, this chief judge values legal interpretation the most. For her, the letter of the law is supreme. I stood up slowly. Dear Your Honor, based on the litigation and court evidence submitted by our side, we have nothing further to add. All I want to say is, justice under the law never wrongfully convicts an innocent person, and never wrongfully acquits a guilty person. I hope the trial follows standard legal procedures, and you uphold your judicial oath. Yukaisha watched with satisfaction, and nodded slightly. The plaintiff's statement is complete. Next, the defense may make your statement. Limo knew this final statement was the last chance for Nandu Bank, because he could feel this lawsuit was not going well for them. Limo stood up slowly and said, Dear Your Honor, and judges in this case, our side, Nandu Bank, is the victim. I don't think it's wrong for people to be compassionate, but the law is impartial. After all, Nandu Bank is the wronged party here. The request raised by the plaintiff, that we as the victim pay compensation, is way too unfair. That concludes my statement. After listening to Limo's statement, Yukaisha looked expressionlessly at the trial stand, where the involved party Wang Li was seated. Please make your final statement, party. Wang Li looked up, glanced at the judge's bench, then looked over at me. Dear Your Honor and judges, I have no objections to this trial. I will accept any verdict given. That's my statement. Court is now in recess. We will recess for 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, we will return to announce the verdict. Yukaisha banged the gavel. The court entered recess. The moment Yukaisha announced the recess, all court personnel stood up, watched Yukaisha and the other two collegial panel members leave the judge's bench. During the recess, everyone was extremely anxious about the upcoming final verdict. Only one person was exception. That was me. Li Xuezhen's palms were full of sweat. This was her first time attending a trial in person, and she also witnessed my arguments in court. Even though the arguments were over, the final verdict was still unknown, so she was super nervous. Li Xuezhen looked at me curiously and said, Lawyer Su, aren't you nervous about the final verdict at all? This is a huge case. It's even a live broadcast trial. I heard it's caused quite a stir. Are you really not worried at all? Whoever deserves conviction will be convicted. Whoever doesn't won't be. Just take it easy. We're not the ones who should be worried. Look at Lawyer Li. As legal counsel for Nandu Bank, he should be way more nervous than us. Li Xuezhen glanced at Limo. He was looking right in their direction. She couldn't help but say, Lawyer Su. Lawyer Li seems to be looking at us. I looked up and noticed it too. Limo was staring at me with a mix of anger, unwillingness, nervousness, and all sorts of complicated emotions. Fixed on me, I smiled faintly. Ignore him, Lawyer Li is just doing eye exercises. At the same time, after the recess, the three collegiate bench members hold the final decision discussion. Yukaisha looks at the other two judges. Regarding this case, do you two have any opinions? One of them speaks up about the claim put forward by the plaintiff. Wang Li is innocent, though legal arguments were made in court, and certain evidence was also provided. But the first trial sentenced her to 20 years in prison. The second trial upheld the original verdict. If our final verdict differs too much, will it cause controversy? The other judge nods in agreement with this view. Yukaisha frowns slightly. Trial results are based on the law. We don't need to reference the first and second trials. Then let's go with the presiding judge's verdict. Finally, after the three discussed, Yukaisha will issue the final judgment. The 30 minutes in court passed very quickly. Everyone following this lawsuit is looking forward to the final verdict. As Yukaisha and the other two collegiate bench members walk to the trial bench, the court clerk shouts, all rise. All personnel present in the courtroom stand up. Limo stares at the trial bench nervously. For the result of this trial, he has no certainty at all right now. He can only wait for Yukaisha to announce the verdict. He casually glances toward the plaintiff's side out of the corner of his eye, only to see me looking completely relaxed. His heart sinks immediately. Yukaisha holds the verdict documents in her hand and speaks slowly under everyone's gaze. This case is a final case heard by this court, that is Nandu High Court. Plaintiff Wang Li, defendant Nandu Bank. This court has jurisdiction over this case. All applicable laws are based on domestic laws. According to the provisions of our country's criminal law, robbery of public or private property by violence, coercion, or threat constitutes the elements of the crime of robbery. The prosecution's claim against plaintiff Wang Li, that Wang Li is an accomplice to the robbery, does not meet the legal requirements. Wang Li did not commit the crime of robbery. Wang Li clearly knew the property obtained was illegal gains, but still chose to use it to pay her father's fees. She is suspected of unjust enrichment and transferring stolen money, and suspected of concealing criminal proceeds. But there were extenuating circumstances, and the situation was urgent. Considering that Wang Li had lost her basic reasoning at that time, her punishment is mitigated. Wang Li is sentenced to 6 months of fixed-term imprisonment, with 1 year of probation, and shall return all illegal gains. Regarding the compensation issue raised by the plaintiff against Nandu Bank, Nandu Bank is indeed involved in this case. Nandu Bank is ordered to apologize to Wang Li. All other claims are dismissed. All litigation claims filed by the defendant are fully dismissed. This is the final judgment of this court. According to the provisions of our country's procedural law, this court will send the written judgment to all parties within 10 days of adjournment. The gavel falls. Court is adjourned as Yukaisha's voice falls. The final trial is now concluded. After hearing the final verdict, Limo completely breaks down. We lost, Nandu Bank lost, and we lost extremely thoroughly. Not only did the court rule Wang Li not guilty of robbery, it overturned the verdicts of the first and second trials, and only sentenced her to 6 months. Not only was it just a 6-month sentence, it's also probation. What does probation mean? Probation means that Wang Li doesn't have to go to jail at all. As long as she behaves and doesn't commit crimes or break the law, then this sentence is effectively meaningless. The moment the verdict was announced, Limo, the legal counsel of Nandu Bank, almost went crazy. Xu Jiqiang from Nandu Bank's legal department was watching the trial live stream. When he heard this trial result, he froze for a moment and let out a long sigh. While watching the live trial stream, he had a faint premonition that they would probably lose this trial. But what he didn't expect was that they would lose so badly. Wang Li getting probation is bad enough, but Nandu Bank also has to apologize to Wang Li. Who can stand that? For a moment, Xu Jiqiang had no idea what to do. If he told Wang Wu about this trial result, he could already picture himself carrying his personal belongings and leaving on the spot. Inside Nandu Bank's president's office, Wang Wu watches the live trial stream, which closes as the court adjournment is announced. He is completely furious. He slams open the legal department door in a rage. Xu Jiqiang, how did you promise me? Didn't you say Nandu Bank would definitely win, and win over public opinion as well? Is this the victory you were talking about? Earlier, Wang Wu was in the legal office, watching the trial live stream with Xu Jiqiang, and he was absolutely furious. But after he returned to the president's office, he still couldn't help sneaking a peek at the trial live stream. This live stream isn't just about whether we win the case. It also concerns the reputation of Nandu Bank. Nandu Bank is just a local bank. If our reputation gets damaged, the loss for the bank will be immeasurable. After watching the entire trial live stream, you'd think his mood was full of ups and downs, right? Nah, there were no ups at all, only downs. It just kept dropping and dropping. He was totally numb from all the bad news. There were no positive turns at all the whole time. The moment the verdict was announced, Wang Wu completely lost his cool, headed straight to the legal office, and questioned Xu Jiqiang, the head of legal department. Xu Jiqiang felt so wronged inside. Who could have guessed that a noob lawyer focused on divorce consultation services would be this good at fighting criminal cases? He totally dominated the entire trial. On top of that, they got Yu Kaixia, such an experienced presiding judge. The final verdict was well supported and reasonable. There's no way we can even file an appeal. President Wang, this time it's our bank legal department's mistake. Even though we lost this time, it's not a complete loss. The only penalty for losing the case is a simple apology. As long as we win over public opinion, Nandu Bank will still come out on top in the end. Wang Wu narrowed his eyes slightly. Public opinion, my ass. Our bank was already ordered to apologize by the court. What the hell are you still going on about public opinion for? Do you think I'm an idiot? How can we win public opinion after losing the case? Xu Jiqiang looked troubled. He just said that off the top of his head. Of course, he had no idea how to win over public opinion. What he said just now was only to calm Wang Wu down. Wang Wu could see right through him and immediately waved his hand dismissively. I'm giving you time to think of a proper solution. If we lose our bank's reputation and public image because of this lost trial, you can forget about being head of legal, pack your bags, and get out. Xu Jiqiang tried to say something, but Wang Wu didn't give him any chance at all and stormed out of the legal office angrily. Xu Jiqiang looked sullen and frustrated. We had planned everything to be foolproof. Who could have guessed that out of nowhere we'd run into a marriage consultation lawyer? Who's this freaking good at criminal cases? After the court announced the adjournment, Yu Kaixia and the other 2 judicial officers left the courtroom. Since Wang Li wasn't acquitted on the spot, she is still suspected of unjust enrichment and transferring stolen funds. Even though she got a suspended sentence, the required procedures still have to be followed. So she was taken away by bailiffs. Li Suizhen looked at me with extreme excitement. Lawyer Su, we won this lawsuit. We won! Wang Li got sentenced. But it's only a few months of sentence, and it's a suspended sentence too, compared to the previous first trial, and the 20-year prison sentence from the second trial. We've scored a huge win in this court lawsuit. Lawyer Su! Li Suizhen hopped on her toes slightly, her whole body shaking with excitement. I glanced at the overly excited Li Suizhen and smiled slightly. Didn't I tell you long ago that we would definitely win this lawsuit? Yu Kaixia's ruling was well within my expectations. If it were an average lawyer, they might not get such a light sentence. But the second trial definitely wouldn't uphold the first trial's verdict either. It's just that the lawyer Wang Zizhong hired before was terrible. He hired a big-shot silver-tongued lawyer for the second trial, who was actually pretty capable. During this lawsuit, there are actually a few key issues that we didn't bring up, but the core point of this lawsuit is whether Wang Li committed robbery. That's the most critical point. As long as we deny this charge, then the accusations from Nandu Bank and the prosecution are completely invalid. Another point is the attitude of the presiding judge. Wang Li's case is very special. Both the first and second trials gave her 20 years in prison. The final trial usually considers the previous 2 rulings. Luckily, Judge Yu Kaixia is a very experienced presiding judge who strictly upholds the fairness of the law, so this final result is not really surprising. Okay, don't get so excited. Hurry up and organize the materials. We still have a bunch of related matters to handle next. We've still got a lot of work to do. Got it, Lawyer Su. Li Suizhen calmed down her excited mood and neatly organized all the materials and followed behind me, getting ready to leave the courtroom. On the other side, Limo was staring at me intently. No one could tell if he was lost and dejected or angry and jealous. It was just really complicated. When they walked past, Li Suizhen mumbled under her breath, Lawyer Su, that's the legal counsel from Nandu Bank. That lawyer Li seems really annoyed with you. I smiled slightly. Maybe he's done too many eye exercises. Let's just mind our own business. Okay, Lawyer Su, that lame joke is actually pretty funny. Limo heard this conversation. He was so mad he almost spit blood. Fine, I lost the case, but you two, can you keep your voice down when you walk past me? We're standing so close. You're talking so loud. Do you think I'm deaf? Nothing I can do. A loss is a loss. Getting mad in court won't change anything. The final verdict has already been announced. After Limo packed up all the court materials, he followed right behind me and walked out of the courthouse. Outside the courthouse, reporters couldn't wait to get their interviews. Some were even calling their editors on the spot. To get headlines ready? Shocking. Major reversal in the Wang Li case. Nandu Bank finally gets a just verdict. As soon as I stepped out of the courthouse, tons of media swarmed over, shoving microphones right in my face. Lawyer Su, we have a question. What do you think of your defense arguments in court this time? How did you come up with the idea of making the bank prove that the bank's money belongs to the bank? Lawyer Su, we've learned that Your firm only does marriage consultation services. So why did you perform so brilliantly in this criminal lawsuit? Facing the reporters and all their follow-up questions, I straightened my suit a little. Our firm does specialize in marriage consultation, but our lawyers are also experts in criminal, civil, and economic disputes. We cover all kinds of legal services. That's why we won this case. If any of you need legal representation, please give Baijun Law Firm first consideration. I flashed my 2 front teeth, looking totally sincere. After the little ad, I left the scene in a hurry with Li Shuizhen. Only Nandu Bank staff were left at the scene. Then some reporters spotted a news story. Carrying their cameras, they walked right up to Li Mo. Lawyer Li, we have a question. You were super confident before the trial, but ended up losing to a little-known law firm. What's your take? You said before that we didn't have to worry about Nandu Bank's odds of winning. Did you already know Nandu Bank would lose for sure? Lawyer Li, another question. Do you have any financial ties with the plaintiff's lawyer? Li Mo's face turned dark. The corner of his mouth kept twitching. Are you fucking trying to hit where it hurts? You want to rub salt in the wound, huh? What the hell do you mean by that? You think I'm a mole? Li Mo was about to lose his mind. Unlike last time, Li Mo walked into court full of energy. He walked out not only having lost the case, but also having his feelings hurt badly. After the Wang Li trial ended, all major media rushed to cover the story. All of them were targeting Nandu Bank. My viral quote, "How can the bank prove its money belongs to itself?" quickly went viral. All over the internet, Nandu Bank's reputation and image suffered huge losses. Right around this time, a comparison video also went viral across the internet. The video starts with Li Mo speaking confidently. As for the odds of winning, you don't have to worry about that. I'm sure you all have your own judgments on that. The end of the video shows Li Mo's tall, straight back. The caption reads, "The silent back." The content says, "From the very beginning." Lawyer Li from Nandu Bank already knew that Nandu Bank would lose this case. Why? Because he's so honorable. He infiltrated Nandu Bank all by himself to let a marriage consultation law firm win and ruin Nandu Bank's reputation. What is this? This is fucking undercover for 10 years. Just for this one move. As soon as the video was posted, it got tons of recommendations. Lots of netizens left jokes in the comments. This is the first time I've heard of a lawyer infiltrating the enemy side. This move is so cool. Oh, that's a new take. UTF? Can a scummy lawyer even get whitewashed like this? Damn, that's insane. Can't help it. That's how the internet works. Even netizens who know the truth can't help but joke about it. Ha ha ha. This caption is so good. Infiltrate the enemy for 10 years. Just for one move. When I come back. Ha ha ha. I can't keep making this up. Next contestant, please. At Nandu Bank's internal meeting, Wang Wu held up the video, his eyes full of rage. What is the meaning of this? You live off the bank. You get all your benefits from the bank. What the hell do they pay you to do? I'm making an official announcement right now. Li Mo has inflicted severe adverse impact on the bank's public image. We are officially terminating Li Mo's employment effective immediately. You can pack your stuff and leave now. After seeing the content in the video, Li Mo was totally confused. Damn, I got famous this way. Fine. If I have to quit, so be it. There's no way I can't find another job. He packed his things right away and left Nandu Bank. As for Nandu Bank, the live broadcast of this court trial had an extremely huge negative impact. Its reputation hit rock bottom as a result, so the bank had to issue an apology to all its customers. They also fully compensated all customers who lost property at the bank in the previously lost lawsuit to mitigate their own reputational damage. This last-ditch effort from Nandu Bank only had a slight effect on public opinion. So, Nandu Bank spent a ton of money bribing media outlets, hoping to seize the high ground in public opinion. Too bad netizens didn't buy it at all. Wang Wu spent a fortune trying to calm the public backlash after sinking an enormous sum of money into it. They finally saw some results, but then a well-known legal commentator, Luoda, posted a video titled, "The Most Brilliant Court Defense I've Seen All Year." The video specifically breaks down the Wang Li case. As a famous legal commentator, Luoda has massive influence online. Every video he posts gets shockingly high views and repost counts. Right after this video went up, all the media outlets that Nandu Bank bribed went completely silent immediately. In the video, Luoda breaks down the legal points from the trial in detail. He also explains why the lawyer chose that specific angle to argue the case, and analyzes the key issues of the trial. In the original court footage, Nandu Bank's information was blurred out, but anyone in the know could tell it was Nandu Bank. Many kind people left reminders in the comments section, pointing out it was Nandu Bank. The bank suffered another huge reputational loss. Unlike the chaos online, Baijun Law Firm was a lot quieter. In the first 2 days after the case ended, quite a lot of people came to inquire about legal services, but most of them were all talk and no action. They would come to feel things out, hoping to get free legal advice. Once they found out we charge for services, most of them left immediately. We didn't get a single case out of them. There were also some women who came to vent their feelings and specifically asked me for marriage legal consultation. I referred all of them to Li Shuizhen. Women relate to each other the most, right? Handing consultation work to Li Shuizhen is totally reasonable, isn't it? But when these people came for consultations and saw Li Shuizhen was the one receiving them, for some reason, they usually left in a hurry after less than 10 minutes of talking. When the hype died down after 2 more days, the number of people coming for consultations dropped a lot. I had a lot more free time. I spent almost 5,000 when hiring people for 2 days to renovate the law firm a bit, at least from the outside. It looks a lot more professional than before. I spent another 5,000 when buying some basic office supplies. All in all, the firm now looks like a proper law firm, way better than it used to be. I nodded in satisfaction, growing bigger and stronger. This was a small first step, but the firm was still pretty quiet. We still hadn't gotten any cases. Looks like advertising online doesn't work very well. Ads from those media outlets aren't great either. During this period, I got a lot of offers, inviting me to work at other law firms as a criminal case lawyer from different people. I just didn't have any cases for my own firm. But working for someone else is never as comfortable as being your own boss. I turned all of them down. 10 days after the case ended, around 1:30 in the afternoon, the sun was high in the sky. It was a little hot and stuffy outside. I was drinking tea and enjoying the air conditioning. Li Shuizhen was busy leaving comments under Teacher Luo's video to advertise for the firm. Her advertising method was very simple and down to earth. No fancy stuff at all. She left comments in the comment section saying, "The lawyer who won this case is from Nandu Baijan Law Firm. Lawyer Subai is highly skilled, proficient in both civil and criminal cases. If you need a lawyer, choose Nandu Baijan Law Firm. You won't regret it." Half an hour later, Li Shuizhen was pretty much mindlessly copying and pasting. Couldn't help asking Lawyer Su, "Is our advertising method actually working? I don't see our comments making any difference at all. We haven't got a single private message either." Of course it works, but a single post won't make much of an impact. That's why you need to keep at it consistently. Besides, don't you want to handle more cases and gain more litigation experience to become a top lawyer after you get confirmed in the post? I was talking seriously to Li Shuizhen, this energetic young intern lawyer trying to motivate her. Li Shuizhen looked totally serious. "All right, let's keep going then." "Got it, Lawyer Su." Li Shuizhen was all fired up and kept copying and pasting comments. I glanced at the date. Wang Li should have finished all probation procedures today. She made an appointment with Wang Zizhong to settle the lawyer's fee today. If I calculate the time, they should be here any minute now. Sure enough, right as I was thinking that, Wang Zizhong and his wife, supported by Wang Li, slowly walked to the entrance of Baijun Law Firm. They couldn't stop smiling from ear to ear. Their son got his 20-year prison sentence reduced to probation. To this elderly couple, I was basically their savior. If it weren't for me, at their age, they would never live long enough to see their son get out of prison. They would have died with endless regret. You could say I gave them a new lease on life. Wang Li was also all smiles. After this case, she really saw how strong my litigation skills are. If it weren't for me, by the time she got out of prison, she would have been completely disconnected from society. She was truly grateful to me. She supported the elderly couple into the law firm, grabbed 3 bottles of mineral water, and set them in front of the Wang family sitting on the sofa. At the same time, I handed the court judgment to Wang Li. "This is the judgment from the trial. I kept it for you earlier. Keep it safe, don't lose it." Wang Li took it solemnly and carefully, folded the judgment several times, until it was about pocket size, and put it in her pocket. Then she took out from her bag a black packaging bag. "Lawyer Su, according to our contract, the lawyer's fee should be around 100,000 yuan. My dad and I talked it over. If it weren't for you, Lawyer Su, I would have had to spend at least 10 years in prison. Now I got probation, and it only lasts a few months. Here's 120,000 yuan. I know it's not much. It's just a token of our gratitude. Please take it." Wang Li forced the money into my arms. Wang Zizhong and Zhang Sufen were afraid I wouldn't take it, so they chimed in. "Lawyer Su, this whole case all worked out thanks to you. Compared to what other lawyers would charge for this is really not much at all. Please just take it. Yeah, you did our family such a huge favor. This thank you fee is nothing. I didn't stand on ceremony for a case like this." During the second trial, even the golden mouth lawyers would charge 188,000 yuan. I got Wang Li out of serving prison time entirely. Taking this much is totally reasonable. Lawyers' fees are usually set based on the difficulty of the case. After seeing me take the money, Wang Li let out a huge sigh of relief. Then she seemed to remember something and asked a question. "Lawyer Zhou, are you familiar with family law services?" I looked up at Wang Li. "What, you need to file for divorce?" Our eyes met. I thought to myself, she just got out on probation and already wants a civil case to liven things up. Wang Li shifted in her seat, making the new sofa squeak. In response to my question, Wang Li shook her head. "Lawyer Su, I'm still on probation right now. I'm afraid a lawsuit will get me in trouble again. The reason I asked is, I want to refer a divorce case to you. It's my childhood friend. He needs to file a lawsuit for divorce, Lawyer Su. If you take divorce cases, I can introduce my childhood friend to you." Wang Li was really thoughtful with this referral. She thought of me first when she had a case to refer. She's such a reliable person. I didn't expect Wang Li's visit today would bring me such a nice surprise. I said immediately, "Of course I do. Divorce cases are our firm's main specialty. You should know that, right?" Wang Li scratched her head awkwardly. "The last time you represented me in court, Lawyer Su, it left such a deep impression on me, so I subconsciously thought that Lawyer Su is a professional criminal lawyer." That's right, I am indeed a professional criminal lawyer, but I'm also specialized in civil marriage cases. I'm not being modest at all. It is what it is. I already have a decent grasp of all types of lawsuits anyway, so it's not entirely wrong to say that. That's awesome. With Lawyer Su on the case, my childhood friend's divorce case actually stands a chance. Wang Li looked excited, with a hint of hyperness in her expression. She was extremely happy that her childhood friend could get a divorce. "Can you tell me a bit about your childhood friend? You seem really happy that he's getting divorced. Is this him escaping a living hell?" When she heard me say that her friend's divorce is him escaping a living hell, Wang Li's expression immediately turned resentful. If he can get divorced, it's way more than escaping a living hell. It's literally going straight to heaven. Wang Li slammed her fist on the sofa. "Oh, sorry about that. I got too carried away just now, Lawyer Su. It's just my buddy's wife. I don't even know where to start. She's just so ridiculous. You know those crazy people you see online? She's even worse than those people. Can you relate, Lawyer Su? That's why I got so mad. I just feel so wronged on my friend's behalf." There was a faint trace of heartache in Wang Li's eyes. "Yeah, exactly, heartache. Heartache over what her brotherly friend is going through." Looking at my brand new sofa, I felt a little heartache too. I just bought it for 800 bucks, brand new. Hold off on feeling wronged for him first. Tell me what exactly is going on with your friend first. I adjusted my suit a little and called Li Shuizhen over to take notes. Wang Li nodded hard and started filling me in on the details. My friend is a total nice guy. He's a programmer, makes around 20K a month. He's a relocatee from Nandu. He owns 3 apartments. One is for his parents to live in, one he lives in with his wife. The third one was originally for rent, but his wife said one of her colleagues wanted to rent it, so they stopped listing it for rent, planning to just rent it to her colleague. But guess what? His wife secretly let her little brother live there for free. His wife is from out of town. Her family is pretty poor. She's around the same age as my friend, about 30 years old. 162 number tall, weighs 55 kilo. She makes 3K a month. She has 2 younger brothers. Her parents don't have social insurance or anything. They just do odd jobs here and there, making around 2K a month total. Her 2 younger brothers, one dropped out of middle school and just mooches off his parents at home. The other graduated college a year ago, and still doesn't have a job right now. My friend is a standard doormat nice guy. He gives all his salary to his wife every month. His wife blows all her own money every month, and spends all of my friend's salary too. My friend can only buy cigarettes one at a time these days. He saves up for one cigarette per day. The more I listened, the more absurd it sounded. Like, what does he even get out of this? Li Shuizhen, who was taking notes, while listening to Wang Li's story, couldn't help frowning. As a woman herself, even she thought this was way too much. This isn't a marriage at all. She's treating the guy like an ATM that never complains no matter what. Isn't this guy just a total sucker? Li Shuizhen thought to herself, as this thought popped into her head out of nowhere. I couldn't stand listening anymore. Cut Wang Li off and said, get to the point.